It's the year-long celebration of the 75th anniversary for the San Francisco-Oakland Bay Bridge, and 98-year-old Louise Fraser remembers it like it was yesterday. She was in high school as the Depression started.
Oh, my father came up here when we lived in Fresno, and during the Depression, he lost his job, so he had been working on the railroads down south, so we moved up here because the key system needed new people.
Louise Fraser became a student at UC Berkeley as construction began on the Bay Bridge.
I have pictures someplace that I have to put in an album of the Bay Bridge.
So in 1934, 35, 36, 37, did they have articles in the paper every day about building the bridges?
Almost. They started in about 31, and it shows the progress of the bridges. It was very interesting the way the cables were spun and things like that. It was something different. We'd never had anything like that before.
And the only way you could see it was the paper, because there was no television.
No, that's right. No television at that time. The papers had plenty of pictures and a lot of things. Practically every day they'd have some kind of an article on the bridges, or on the progress, so that it was interesting.
There were 3 or 4 papers in San Francisco then, she says, and at least 2 papers in Oakland.
Anyway.
She cut out articles about construction on the Golden Gate Bridge and the Bay Bridge almost every day. She and her son Ken have hundreds of articles on the construction of the Bay Bridge. She says that by the 1930s, there had already been a century of talk about building a bridge across the bay. This clipping is titled, "Will These Things Ever Be?"
This was in the Examiner, and it shows a woodcut that they found that was in the Examiner in 1889, and it shows that it's supposed to be the opening of a Bay Bridge.
In 18?
Yeah, this woodcut. It was a woodcut and was published in the Examiner in 1889, December 29, 1889.
Predicting what the bridge would look like.
What would look like, yeah, what it should be in 40 years. They said it would be like this. Well, of course, it took more than 40 years because it was the Oakland Tribune yearbook, 1935, and they just started the bridges. This was, I think, some of these pictures in here were just pictures. Here's this details all the approaches. Of course, they hadn't really started yet, or they just barely started, and there's they had started in 1935, and then they have pictures, diagrams of the bridge, and it's amazing. There's the Tribune. There's a picture of there's just the towers there, and there's the fleet coming in. Now this was in October of 33, and it shows the main anchorage, I think, there. This is San Francisco from the bridge.
Wow.
Yeah, it's quite a picture. Shows the piers down here and the skyline, and
So this took up the entire front page, it looks like.
yeah, it did, yeah. But the paper was so big, I hadn't realized that the paper was this big. That was the regular size of the papers. This was in May of 34, shows some of the towers being built.
That's the foundation for the Bay Bridge.
Mm-hmm. On the Oakland side, yeah. It says Bay Bridge construction sets world's record. Oh, these stepping stones to carry the Bay Bridge between San Francisco and Yerba Buena constitutes the most difficult underwater construction work ever undertaken.
These giant eye bars, the man in the shot dwarfed it by their size, would make up key elements for the cantilever section of the bridge.
I know, they're huge. Boy, when the paper's this big, they can get some great pictures. See, now this is 1936. We've got a lot of 35s in here before, if you get them in order. Let's see. Oh, this mighty tunnel.
It says the greatest bridge in all the world.
Uh-huh. I don't know what else is in here.
This full-page picture shows the city of Oakland with the new Bay Bridge in the upper frame. The paper was filled with facts and figures on the Bay Bridge, what it called, quote, the greatest bridge in the world. The advertising was almost as interesting as the news.
Fine styling and sturdy built in this dining room suite.
And so 8 pieces for how much?
$109.
Louise Fraser made the headlines, too. She was on this float in a San Francisco parade honoring the opening of both bridges. The column says these attractive co-eds represented the city of Oakland.
And I think this is me over here. Oakland had a float in the parade, and they had some of us girls from Cal on the float. There was about 4 or 5 of us. And we represented culture and agriculture and all that kind of thing.
The bridge opening gave her a moment in history, and it gave her father something even better, a job. He became a conductor on the Key train, which ran over the San Francisco-Oakland Bay Bridge.
The Key system was the original trains and services from here to San Francisco. And then he worked in San Francisco at the terminal.
The 75th anniversary of the Bay Bridge will be celebrated all year. And 98-year-old Louise Fraser has her own memories and her own headlines of a classic golden moment in world history. In Oakland, Mark Jones reporting.